I never imagined a casual game night could collapse the fortress of our marriage, yet my heart is still thundering from the moment Ryan, my husband's oldest friend, brushed my thigh beneath the coffee table. The touch lasted half a second, but it detonated something savage inside me. A heat I hadn't felt since our honeymoon glow faded into grocery lists. My husband, Liam, sat inches away, oblivious, laughing at Connor's story about college escapades while Connor's eyes pinned me with a dare I pretended not to read. I tried to swallow the flutter, but every clink of beer bottles sounded like a countdown. It wasn't just Ryan's reckless graze. It was the collective attention of men who'd known me as Liam's sweet wife, now lingering on the curve of my smile. In that charged breath, I discovered how terrifyingly easy it is to crave being someone's beautiful mistake again tonight, breathlessly. I'm 32 years old, and I've been married to Liam for 7 of those years. We met in college. He was the quiet, reliable guy in my psych class who always remembered the due dates and brought extra pens. He had kind eyes, a gentle laugh, and a warmth that made me feel safe. Stability was something I craved back then. My childhood had been a mess of broken promises and slamming doors, and Liam was the calm in that storm. So I married him. Because he was good. Because he loved me in a way that felt steady and unshakable. But no one tells you how dangerous steady can be when it turns into silence. Or how lonely it feels to sleep next to a man who's become more of a routine than a partner. Our marriage isn't broken. Not in the ways people usually think of. There's no screaming, no betrayals, no cruelty. Liam works hard, pays attention, remembers anniversaries. But somewhere along the way, we stopped touching like we meant it. Our kisses turned into pecks. Our sex became efficient, predictable, scheduled. It's like we're checking boxes. And every time he finishes before I even fully arrive, I smile and pretend I'm satisfied, because that's what a good wife does, right? But I'm tired. Not just physically. I'm tired of pretending. Tired of folding my desires into corners. He never even notices. I want to be seen. Not just loved, but wanted. Desired in the way that makes your skin ache and your thoughts derail. I miss the version of me that felt wild, impulsive, messy. The version of me I've quietly buried under clean laundry and polite smiles. And I think the worst part is that Liam doesn't see any of it. He thinks I'm fine. He thinks I'm happy. Maybe because I've gotten too good at pretending. So I play the part. The doting wife at dinner parties. The supportive partner who listens to his work stories, even when I'm screaming inside for someone to ask about me, about what I dream of, what I fantasize about, what I need. Sometimes I lie awake beside him, staring at the ceiling, and wonder how close you can be to someone before the loneliness starts to feel like drowning. And lately I've been gasping for air in places I never thought I'd look. It started with a laugh. Not mine. His. Ryan's. Deep, rough, shameless. He laughed like a man who didn't care what anyone thought, like someone who knew he could command a room with just a glance or a grin. He was everything Liam wasn't. Loud, brash, magnetic. The kind of man who drinks too much, talks too close, and flirts like it's as natural as breathing. He'd always been around. Ryan and Liam went to high school together. I met him a few times early in our relationship, but he'd moved out of state shortly after we got married. For years, he was just a name in Liam's stories, the wild card friend with too many exes and a new city every year. I never gave him much thought. Until he moved back. The first night he came over for drinks with the guys, I was wearing yoga pants and a worn hoodie, not thinking twice about being around a bunch of Liam's friends. I was refilling the snack bowls when Ryan came into the kitchen behind me, reached above my head for a glass, and his chest brushed my back. I froze, just for a moment, but my body didn't. "Sorry," he murmured, voice low, almost amused. Didn't mean to sneak up on you." "It's fine," I said too quickly. My cheeks burned. I wasn't used to men noticing me like that anymore. I wasn't used to noticing men like that. But I noticed him. God, I noticed everything. The way his sleeves hugged his forearms, the veins in his hands when he twisted open a beer, the slight rasp in his voice, like a man who smoked too much or talked too long at night. He had that careless sex appeal that didn't need to try. He just was. And the way he looked at me. He never crossed a line. Not really. Not at first. Just held my gaze a little too long, let his eyes flick to my lips when I talked, laughed at my jokes like he actually heard them. "You always this quiet?" He asked me one night while the others were out on the patio, and it was just the two of us clearing plates. "I'm not quiet," I said. "Just rarely listened to." His smile faded a little, like he saw something in me most people didn't bother to notice. "Then they're all idiots." Something inside me curled tight at that. I didn't know what to say. No one ever said things like that to me anymore. Not even Liam. Over the next few weeks, Ryan became a regular presence. Game, nights, Sunday barbecues, the occasional evening where he and Liam watched sports and I read nearby. But it was always there, humming between us like static under the surface. Every brush of his arm, every passing glance, every time his knee bumped mine under the table and neither of us moved away. One night, I walked into the living room to say goodnight, wearing a long sleep shirt and no bra. The moment his eyes dropped, just for a second, my stomach clenched so hard I had to grip the doorframe. "Night, sweetheart," he said, voice low and lazy. He'd never called me that before, and Liam didn't even notice. I started paying more attention to how I looked when Ryan was around. Swapped the baggy clothes for softer fabrics that hugged instead of hid. I caught him staring more, smirking when I bit my lip, whispering something in my ear that made my skin light up, even if it was harmless on the surface. One afternoon, while Liam was outside grilling, I was leaning over the counter cutting fruit, and Ryan walked by behind me, close enough that his hand brushed the curve of my lower back. "Careful," he said softly, lips almost at my ear. "You're gonna drive a man to sin like that." I laughed, nervous, flustered, a little drunk on the adrenaline of his nearness. "You're Liam's friend," I whispered. "Doesn't mean I don't see what's right in front of me." He left me breathless, cheeks flushed, heart pounding. That night, I replayed it over and over while Liam snored beside me, oblivious. Ryan didn't make a move. Not directly, but he didn't have to. His presence was the move. The way he'd lean in when I spoke, eyes locked on mine like there was nothing else in the world. The way he'd tease me, make me laugh, ask questions Liam hadn't in years. "What did you want to be when you were a kid?" He asked me once, when we were alone in the kitchen again. "A writer," I said. He smiled. "Still could be. You've got stories in your eyes." God, he saw me, not the wife, not the woman who made dinners and folded socks. Me. And suddenly, every moment with him felt like standing on the edge of something dangerous. A line I told myself I wouldn't cross. A line I was already dancing on with bare feet, and a heartbeat that didn't belong to Liam anymore. It happened on a Tuesday. Liam had gone to visit his mother overnight. A sudden trip. Nothing serious. Just a minor health thing she wanted checked. He kissed my forehead before he left, told me to get some rest, maybe light some candles and have a bubble bath. I nodded, smiled, waved him out the door. I didn't know then that I'd let another man touch me before he came back. Ryan texted me that evening. Just a casual, "You good?" with a winking emoji. He knew Liam was gone. I stared at the screen for longer than I should have. I shouldn't have replied. But I did. Yeah, Just quiet. He messaged back a few seconds later. Want company? Just for a bit? I could have said no. I should have. But my fingers moved before my brain could reason with them. Sure. When the doorbell rang, my stomach turned over so hard I had to grip the edge of the kitchen counter. I opened the door, heart hammering against my ribs, and there he was. Jeans low on his hips, a plain black t-shirt, and that smile. That damn smile that always made me feel like I was standing in the path of a slow-moving storm. Hey, he said, voice smooth, eyes raking over me. I was wearing a long cotton dress, soft and simple, nothing overt. But the way his gaze dragged down my body made me feel bare. Come in, I said, stepping aside. We sat on the couch with 2 glasses of wine and a movie neither of us watched. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It buzzed. Every shift, in his seat, every time his arm brushed mine, felt loaded. I could barely breathe. At one point, I looked over, and he was already watching me. You okay? He asked, voice low. I nodded. Just not used to this. His eyes searched mine, and something shifted. He leaned in, slow, deliberate, his hand brushing my hair behind my ear. You don't have to be scared of me. I wasn't scared of him. I was terrified of myself. But I didn't stop him when his hand slid to the side of my face. I didn't stop him when his mouth brushed mine, feather soft. I let out a shaky breath, and he kissed me again, deeper this time, fuller. I whimpered into him, something long buried cracking open like a dam inside me. The wine glass slipped from my fingers onto the carpet, and neither of us cared. His hands gripped my hips, pulling me into his lap, and I could feel him. Hard, pulsing beneath me. My dress rode up as I straddled him, and the heat of his hands on my bare thighs made my skin erupt in goosebumps. Kiss me, I whispered. I'm not going to stop unless you tell me to, he murmured against my neck, his voice dark and rough. I didn't tell him to stop. His lips traveled down my throat, sucking gently, teeth grazing just enough to make me arch. My fingers dug into his shoulders as his hands slid beneath my dress, palms dragging up my thighs, over the swell of my hips, until he reached the thin line of my panties. Fuck, he breathed. You're already soaked. I know, I said, barely able to speak. My voice was shaking. My whole body was. He slipped one finger beneath the fabric and slid through me, slow and deliberate. I gasped. No one had touched me like that in years. Not like I was something to be unraveled. Not like I was a craving he'd been dying to satisfy. I've thought about this, he said, eyes locked on mine. About how you'd sound, how you'd taste. I should have pushed him away. I should have felt guilty. But all I felt was alive. So painfully, achingly alive. He stood, carrying me in his arms, and I wrapped myself around him, laughing breathlessly against his neck. He took me to the guest bedroom, somehow knowing instinctively I couldn't do this in the bed I shared with Liam. He laid me down like I was something fragile, something worth worshipping, and then peeled the dress from my body slowly, watching every inch of skin like it was art. When he kissed down my chest, across my stomach, my hips bucked, involuntarily. His tongue slid along the inside of my thigh and I nearly sobbed. I forgot how it felt to be savored, to be tasted like a secret, to be teased until I was writhing, begging, gripping the sheets like they were the only thing tethering me to earth. And when he entered me, finally, slowly, I cried out. Not just from pleasure, but from the overwhelming realization of how much I had missed being wanted. My nails dragged down his back. his name on my lips like a confession. He didn't rush. He watched my face. He whispered things, dirty, soft, reverent. My name, how tight I was, how beautiful I looked falling apart for him, how long he'd waited for this. It wasn't just sex. It was something deeper, something that undid me. When I came, it hit me like a wave crashing over rock. I broke apart beneath him, shaking, gasping, tears springing to my eyes from the sheer intensity. He followed with a groan, holding me close, his body shaking against mine. And then there was silence, heavy, sacred, dangerous. We lay tangled together, skin slick with sweat, hearts racing. His hand was on my stomach, rising and falling with each breath. I turned my head to the ceiling and stared at the shadows. The guilt crept in quietly at first, like a whisper from the back of my mind. But it was there. I'd crossed a line. And I didn't feel sorry. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. After Ryan left, just before 2 a.m., after kissing the inside of my wrist like it meant something, I took a long shower. I sat on the cold tile floor and let the water scald my skin, hoping it might wash away whatever I'd just done. But nothing left me. Not the feel of his mouth, not the sound of my own moans echoing in my ears, not the rush of finally being touched the way I'd quietly dreamed of for years. I didn't feel clean. I didn't feel dirty. I felt split, like something fundamental inside me had cracked open and was bleeding truth. I kept hearing Ryan's voice. I'm not going to stop unless you tell me to. I hadn't told him to stop. The next morning, I changed the guest sheets before Liam came home. I cleaned everything, vacuumed, lit a candle. I wore soft makeup and his favorite sweater, and when he walked through the door, I kissed him on the cheek like I always did. He smiled at me with those warm, faithful eyes. Hey, babe. And I felt like I was wearing someone else's skin. That night, when we got into bed, he reached for me. His hand skimmed down my back, fingers familiar and unhurried. I turned toward him, let him undress me in the soft, practiced way he always had. He kissed me the same way he always did. Sweet, slow, gentle. And all I could think about was how quiet it was. No urgency, no fire. When he moved inside me, it was rhythmic, predictable. My body responded like it was supposed to. I arched, I moaned lightly, I held onto his shoulders. But inside, I was somewhere else. My mind kept drifting back to the way Ryan had looked at me like I was the only woman who'd ever mattered. The way my body had screamed under his touch. The way he'd taken his time, not out of obligation, but obsession. With Liam, I felt cherished, but not wanted. And that difference had never felt starker than in that moment, staring at the ceiling while he came with a soft grunt and whispered, I love you. I said it back. Of course I said it back. But the words tasted different in my mouth now, like something I was supposed to say, something that belonged to another version of me. The good wife, the loyal partner, the woman who didn't come undone under another man's hands. Afterward, I lay on my side, facing the wall, while Liam drifted off behind me. I could hear his breathing shift, slow and steady. I stared into the darkness and felt the weight of it pressing on my chest. Not just the guilt, but the terrifying knowledge that I wasn't sorry. Not for the act itself, only for how easy it had been. I had expected it to tear me apart. I thought I'd wake up feeling hollow, full of shame and regret. But what I felt was something far more dangerous. Relief. Not because I didn't love Liam. I did. But I had betrayed him, and instead of feeling shattered, I felt seen. Like I'd finally let a piece of myself out of the box I'd been stuffing it into for years. I had wanted Ryan. And not just in the moment. I had needed to be wanted, to be touched with hunger, to be whispered to like a secret, to be consumed. And Liam didn't do that. Maybe he never had. Or maybe I had changed. Maybe I wasn't the woman he married anymore. That thought scared me more than the infidelity. I started avoiding mirrors, started walking through my days like I was watching myself from a distance, performing the role of wife, nodding in the right places, laughing at the right times. But at night, when I closed my eyes, I didn't see my husband. I saw Ryan. His hands, his mouth, his heat. And I hated how much I missed it. I hated how I would check my phone and ache when there was nothing from him. I hated that I was already wondering if it would happen again. Because part of me wanted it to. That was the hardest truth to admit. I didn't feel broken by what I'd done. I felt awake. I didn't see Ryan again for 3 weeks. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was terrified that if I let him near me again, I wouldn't come back the same. During those weeks, I tried harder than I ever had to be the wife Liam deserved. I cooked. I touched him more. I asked questions, stayed off my phone, laughed at his jokes even when they didn't land. I threw myself into being present, hoping it might drown the part of me that had come alive that night. But it didn't work. Because, the truth is, I couldn't unknow what it felt like to be desired the way Ryan desired me. I couldn't unfeel the way my body responded when he looked at me. Not like a wife, not like a duty, but like a woman he couldn't help but want. No matter how much I loved Liam, I couldn't make myself forget. I kept waiting for the guilt to transform me, for it to grow so loud that it would drown everything else. But instead, something else grew. Resentment. Not toward Liam, but toward myself, for settling, for smiling through years of quiet loneliness, for telling myself that love was enough, even when my body was starving for more. One night, after dinner, I watched Liam wash the dishes while humming under his breath. He turned to smile at me, and I suddenly realized how far apart we really were. He had no idea who I was anymore. Maybe he never had. Later that week, I met Ryan again. Not planned, not discussed. It just happened. The moment I saw him, something inside me surrendered. There was no grand speech, no messy declarations, just a silent agreement in the way he looked at me and the way I didn't look away. I let it happen again. And again after that. And I didn't tell Liam, because I didn't know how, because I didn't want to break him with a truth I couldn't explain without breaking myself too. I don't know where this ends. I don't know if I'll leave, or if he'll find out, or if I'll keep living this split life, half of me walking beside a man who loves me, the other half burning in the arms of a man who sees me. But what I do know is this. Infidelity doesn't always start with malice. Sometimes it starts in silence, in the empty spaces between words, in the slow erosion of being touched but not felt. I don't know if I'm a bad woman, but I know this version of me, the one who moans in secret and cries in the dark, is real, and I'm not ready to kill her again.